All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'll pray for us. Father, thank you for your goodness to us. Thank you for the privilege of being at Bryan College and for the ability to read your word. You say that your word makes wise the simple, and we come as simple people, and we want to be wiser than we are. I pray that you use your word to make us wise today. I pray that our thoughts would be drawn toward your glory and your greatness and your wisdom and your power and your artistry and your promises. You say in your word, God, that it's the glory of God to hide things and the glory of kings to search them out. And I pray that you would make us kings and queens today as we search out the glories of your word. I pray that you would encourage us. I pray that we would see ourselves both in our fallenness and in the promise that you've given us in total transformation in the new covenant one day in Christ. And I would pray that we would live. Your word says any person who has this hope sanctifies themselves. And I pray that we would live out of that hope today. Your word says, if by the Spirit's power you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. And I pray that you make us really live today. We pray all of this in Jesus' name and for his glory. Amen. So we're looking today at John chapter 5. And what I want to do is just have some discussion points, and we'll read through the text. So the words in gold are the text, and the words not in gold are thoughts. I'll put this PowerPoint in the Dropbox, so if you have access to that, you will have it. You don't have to take copious notes on this. But God's word says this: after this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now, one of the things to notice in this text is that in saying there was a feast of the Jews, we were just told in chapter 4 that all that happened around Passover. And if that happened around Passover, if we come to the next feast of the Jews, well, the closest one away is 50 days, Pentecost. And if this is not Pentecost, then the next closest one away is 6 months. And so it's clear that John has skipped over massive material between the end of chapter 4 and the end of chapter 5. When we look at John compared to the Synoptic Gospels cover about 130 miracles or something like that. John covers 8 miracles. And of those 8, only 2 are included elsewhere, the resurrection and the feeding of the 5,000. So all the rest of the ones that are covered in John are only in John. And this miracle is only in John. And you might say, well, why is that? When you look at Matthew, Mark, and Luke, most of that material is in Galilee. You have the final journey to one time to Jerusalem where Jesus dies. The Synoptic Gospels are kind of split in the middle. Half that material covers Galilee and half covers that final journey. In John, it's not like that. In John, we have 3 years of material, and we can tell that through these feasts that go through. But he only chooses to record these 8 miracles. And some of the things he does record, they seem to be out of order. John records a cleansing of the temple early in Jesus' ministry. Matthew, Mark, and Luke record a miracle like that, cleansing the temple right before Jesus died. Luke, in Luke 7, records a miraculous catch of fish, happened at the beginning of Jesus' ministry. John records a miraculous catch of fish, but it's after Jesus rose from the dead. And some people who come to the Bible with the hermeneutic of skepticism will just freak out and say, oh, look at the terrible problems with the chronology. Or, even worse, in my opinion, are evangelicals who will say, oh, well, stuff like that doesn't really matter. Well, people who say that it doesn't really matter usually are lazy thinkers who haven't worked with the text and looked at it. And I think when you look at the text and you work with it, you realize that what John is doing is presupposing that you've read Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And he's saying all that's true. All that really happened. These events, they're real events. But John is coming along and John is saying, let me tell you what else happened. You know that Jesus healed, Jesus cleansed the temple at the end of his ministry. Well, let me tell you about the time he did it at the beginning of his ministry. Or when you read Matthew, Mark, and Luke and you know about the miraculous catch of fish at the beginning, John is saying, let me tell you about the other one that happened at the end. And he even says at the end, if I wrote down everything that Jesus said and did, I don't think the world itself could contain all the books. So when perhaps John is filling in the gaps of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and that's why he's willing to skip over perhaps 6 months, perhaps 18 months of material between the end of 4 and 5. So after this, there was a feast of the Jews. Jesus went up to Jerusalem. And here's when the feast happened. There are things that happened in the first day of the first month, New Year, the 10th day, first month, that's the Day of Atonement, 15th through the 21st, Feast of the Tabernacles. You can see that there's a mirror image of that in the second half. First day of the first month is when the tabernacle was erected. 10th day is the day you take in the lamb. 15th through 21st is the unleavened bread. And what you have in that Jewish calendar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, when Passover happens, this secular calendar is shifted 6 months. So the 7th month becomes the first month, and from there on out, Nisan, originally the 7th month, becomes the first month, and we have the celebration. So we don't know which one of these ceremonies it is, but it's clear that John is skipping over a huge amount of material, which makes it all the more interesting that he skips over so much and begins to give us great details in this story. Now, there was in Jerusalem by the sheep gate, a pool in Aramaic called Bethesda, which had 5 roofed colonnades. So John skips over all this material, and he's saying this miracle happened at a particular place with a particular name, and oh, by the way, it had 5 roofed colonnades. Does that appear strange to you? And I wonder, would it freak you out if, like, I called on people to ask questions? Would that, like, be totally, like, overwhelming? Or could I do that? Like, I've got a roster of everybody's name. Would that help you or hurt you as a student, do you think? Okay, so I'm just going to pick somebody on this page. So, is Noah Parrish here? Where is Noah? Noah. What do you make of the fact, Noah, that he skipped over all this material and then, boom, he starts giving us all these details. And by the way, Noah, in making a comment, it means you don't have to post or anything like that. So make sure you sign the thing saying I said something in class. So what do you make of that, Noah? So John has skipped over like 6 months or a year or 18 months and said nothing about stuff that happened. And now all of a sudden he's saying, Jesus did a miracle. And oh, by the way, it was this place. And it had this name. There were 5 colonnades. And oh, by the way, it was by the sheep gate. Does that seem odd to you? To skip over that material and then start going into this incredible detail, like where this miracle happened. Does that seem odd to you? Yeah, maybe he's just, I don't know, what is he doing? What is he doing? Why these things? Let me ask someone else, okay, this is not freaking out. This is kind of fun, isn't it? It doesn't matter what you do in life. It doesn't matter what you do in life. You're going to make your money standing in front of people and talking. Did you know that? It doesn't matter what eventually it boils down to talking in front of people. So I'm just going to pick somebody. Let's see. This would be, is it Sarah Gravitt? Is Sarah? She's sick today. Well, let's pick someone else. How about Barrett Pope? Is Barrett Pope? See, this is fun, isn't it? This is great. And let me tell you about this. Does it make you pay attention or not pay attention? Okay, so it's Barrett Pope here. Where's Barrett? Oh, Barrett's sleeping. Well, we'll pick someone else. How about Laura Fry? Is Laura Fry here? Laura, what do you make of that? All these details.
It sticks out. Like, if he skips so much and then all of a sudden is giving all these details, it sticks out, and I think it gives importance to the details.
Wow, that is a great comment. When you sign the thing, put down that you made 2 comments. You get credit for 2 comments. If he's emphasizing these things, there must be a reason why he thinks this is important. He said something and then, like, he's giving all of that. So what should we do? What should we do? Like, he's given all these details. He skipped over massive amounts. What should we do? Tell me your name again. Laura.
Well, the core of an eyewitness report is detailed.
Right. It's certainly the legitimizing, authenticating to give details, because we can check this stuff out to see if it's true. Is there anything we can do as intelligent readers? We want to know, like, what this is. Yes, tell me your name again.
Mac.
Sorry?
Mac.
Mac. M-A-C. Mac. Okay, Mac, good. I have a spelling problem, sorry. Mac. I've got it.
I found a lot of times when they give a lot of detail like that, like when it talks especially about like numbers and stuff, a lot of times they're trying to make connections. And so maybe we could look like
Ah.
what it is and what
Oh, you get double points, Mac. Absolutely. John may be making some kind of connection. So let's look. If we go to the Bible, is there any other place in the Bible that talks about the sheep gate? And it turns out there is. It's Nehemiah 3:1. And if we read Nehemiah 3:1, it's a list of all the different places where the wall's being rebuilt. But if we read Nehemiah 3:1, we would see that the sheep gate is somewhere connected to the temple. So we don't really know exactly where it is, but if we just went to Nehemiah 3:1, we could determine that the sheep gate is close to the temple. The next thing we could do is we could start getting maps and try to look for the place. And if we did that, what we would find is that this pool of Bethesda is right here. Do you see that? And so here's the temple, and this little pool is right there. And in fact, there's a place in Jerusalem. It's by the Shrine of the Book that has this huge model of ancient Jerusalem, and it has what it looked like before it was destroyed in 70 A.D. And this is part of that model of ancient Jerusalem. And this is what they believe that the pool actually looked like. Now, let me ask you a question. What do you find strange about that? What do you find interesting about that? This is what the pool looked like. It said there are a lot of sick people, a lot of blind, lame, problematic people in this place. What strikes you about that? Well, let me call on somebody. This focuses our attention, doesn't it? Which is good. I used to have a Greek teacher who would do this, and he called us all by our surname. So it was Mr. So-and-so, and Greek for me was hard, and I was in a class with really, really smart people, and he would say, would you translate for us, Mr. And you could see everybody in the class saying, no, please. Mr. Davis, but it does focus your attention, doesn't it? Let me ask you a question. How many of you are surfing on the internet right now? Nobody. Wow, that's an honest person. I appreciate an honest person. Let me pick someone. So this is going to be nobody. This is going to be is Evan Wooden here? What about this person? Michaela Hampton. Is Michaela here? Yes. Are you Michaela? Michaela, what do you make of that? Like, it says this place was, and by the way, the name probably means something like House of Compassion. And whatever is going on, they believe that somehow the first one who got into the waters when they were stirred up would get healed. This is House of Compassion. It says there were lots and lots of sick people there. Michaela, what do you think what strikes you as odd about this place? Knowing all those details, knowing that this is what it looked like. Let me ask you this, Michaela. If you were there and like you had a medical issue that you wanted to get healed from, and you knew that it was first one in the water got healed, do you think this would be a very nice place? It's beautiful. It is beautiful, isn't it? I mean, it's crazy how beautiful all these ancient buildings are, built without mortar. I think you're exactly right. Double points for that today. They were drawn to this place because they believed there was something about this place that could help them. Now, some of you said no. What? Defend the answer no. Why do you think this wouldn't be or maybe it can be both things at the same time, but if you were making a case no, that this wouldn't be a great place, why would you? Is it Alex? Alex, why no?
Well, if it's basically first come, first served, then when the waters get stirred up, there's going to be a huge brawl.
A brawl. Think of Black Friday, Walmart, flat screen TV, for $4 is Is that going to be the place where you say, no, 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 you go ahead of me. Let me hold the door for you. Or is that going to be the place of, let me give you the right elbow of fellowship while I jump in the pool? Let me ask you this. Well, let me ask someone else. So if this place is full of sick people, so let me just ask someone here. Is Garrett Moody? Garrett, if this place was full of sick people, like just crammed full of sick people, paralyzed people, not leprous, but, people with problems, help me. What did this place smell like? So if these people are paralyzed, they're waiting for the water to be moved, okay? And it's first come, first serve, and they're like dozens, hundreds, and they're paralyzed. What's true if you're paralyzed and you have to go to the bathroom? Well, you're just going to go, right? And does that place look like it has lots of fans and windows? Or you ever walked in like a nursing home where they don't quite clean things? You ever walked in a room and like it takes your breath away? Okay, that's this place. That's this place. So do you have a question? Somebody's going to have a double point question. Yes, tell me your name. There are no dumb questions. They're great questions that help us understand things. So, you know how it said there were 5 colonnades? So these are hallways. I guess they're steps here. And they're just laying down on the floor everywhere. And if it's sick people, tell me your name again. Sorry? Brindley. Brindley, if there's sick people up and down those hallways everywhere, and they've got bad stuff wrong with them, we've asked what it smelled like. What did it sound like? You got people and they've got gallbladder problems. They've got people, they have bad infections. You've got people with fevers. You've got people with running sores. You've got people whose body parts are wasting away. What did it sound like when you walked through that door? Do you think people were singing 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 99 bottles of, or do you think they were like groaning and moaning and griping about their existence? And Brindley, do you think that was a place where people made lasting friendships, with knowing that it's only the first one who gets in who gets kept? Why would you not have friendship with the people, real deep friendship with the people around you? If they got in before you, then you just laid by the pool for nothing. Would you grant then that even though this place is called House of Compassion, that it was really a house of misery? a house of selfishness, it should have been a house of compassion, but this was a miserable place. Abigail?
So my question is, why is Jesus here? It sounds like such a miserable place. It seems like the last destination anyone would want to go if they have no need to be there. And then along with that question, just given what Jesus has done with all the other miracles, why is that one man the only man that he healed if there's probably a number of people with ailments?
Now, I'm going to give you double points for that, but that's way beyond double points. That's like questions that should be put in the homework and people. That's like fantastic question, isn't it? Why does Jesus go here? And why does he heal only one person? Those are two great questions, aren't they? And what do you think, Abigail?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, but I think it's interesting that later in the passage, Jesus follows up with the man that he heals. And he makes the comment of, look, you really are better. It's just not a passing thing. But I wonder, I just don't know why Jesus wouldn't heal the rest of the people.
I mean, you might think that Jesus would go in that hallway and with both arms spread out, just walk down and say, healed, 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 healed. Right? Walk down all 5 of those hallways. And Jesus doesn't do that. How many vote that that's a little strange? Me too. Is Jesus a compassionate person? I'm thinking if you suffer infinite punishment from God so that anyone can respond and be in heaven, I think that makes you a pretty gracious person. Why doesn't Jesus heal everybody? Let me make a case. You tell me what you vote. Jesus healed this man because when he went in this place, this man had faith and other people don't have faith. So that's my case. What do you think that's right, or do you think that's wrong? Alex?
That certainly seems to be a plausible explanation.
Plausible explanation. Totally plausible. But
there are dozens, if not hundreds of people here, so to say that only one man has faith seems to be a bit of a stretch.
And what do we know about this man from the rest? Tell me your name again. Morgan. He doesn't even know who Jesus is.
Because Jesus asked him, do you want to get well? And the man's basically just begging him to stay and put him in the pool.
Right.
That's what the man is wanting. And then later in the chapter, when Jesus...
Later in the chapter. You mean the Bible may interpret itself if we just keep reading? The things we would like to know, if we keep reading, we might actually find out. Later in the chapter, what does it say?
Well, the Pharisees tell the man that he can't carry his pallet because it's the Sabbath. And he says, the man who healed me said I could. And they say, well, who healed
Who
you?
is he? And
said,
he
"I don't
says,
know."
I have no idea.
And then,
Oh my goodness, like that's so beyond double points. And then when he finds out,
and then when Jesus comes to him and says, behold, you become healed, do not sin anymore, so nothing else worse happens to you.
so that nothing were, this guy was a guy who was peeing on himself all day long. And Jesus tells him, literally in Greek, stop sinning because something worse may happen to you. And what does the guy do?
Turns around and goes right to
Turns out and rats Jesus out to the Pharisees. Did this guy have faith? No. Mac.
I was just reading like notes or whatever, and it shows on like in verse 5, it says that he was there, he'd been invalid for 38 years, and when Jesus saw him laying there and knew that he had already been there for a long time, he said, "Do you want to be healed?" And I was just thinking like maybe that man, I don't know, maybe it shows that he did have faith because he had been there so much longer than everybody else.
He certainly had faith that this place could fix him. Because you don't go, or maybe he's desperate. We don't know. He certainly doesn't have faith in Jesus. Tell me your name. Alexis.
My concern would be, if he was there for 38 years, why had nobody else let him pass him?
How in the world did he exist at a place and nobody helped him? Let me ask this. Would you go to a place like this? You're going to a place and there are hundreds of people and they pee on themselves, they soil themselves, you walk in it takes your breath away. It's a place where people are fighting each other the moment. Can you imagine how closely people would watch those waters and like all of a sudden they think it's in and you've got 18 people? Can you imagine how difficult that place would be? This was a hard place. But we're still at Abigail's question. Why? Why the one guy? So, if you go to Jerusalem, you can actually see an archway. And I don't know if this is from a Crusader church in the Middle Ages, but this is the actual place where this happened. Like this picture is where it happened. Here's the pool. And I notice that the pool is near the temple. Now I know from studying the Bible elsewhere, can you see this little wing of the temple here and this little wing of the temple there? Can you see that? I know elsewhere that that's 60 feet. That's how long that distance is. It's 60 feet. Now, this room is probably something like 45 or 50 feet wide. So how big would, like, if that's 60 feet and this is the temple, where would the pool of Bethesda be in relation to this room? So on this map, here's the pool. This is 60 feet. Where would this pool be? Like if it were on the Bryan College campus. Let's say we're making a scale model of Jerusalem, and this room is the temple. Where would the pool be? Yeah, it could. I think it's actually closer than that. I think it might be the library. Now, what strikes you about that? What strikes me about it is this guy was as close as you could get to God, but he was on the outside. And you know why he was on the outside? Because if you have medical issues, you can't go in the temple. This guy was as close as he could get to God, but he was on the outside. And what kept him on the outside was he had this issue. These are all places. This is ancient. Is that model? You can you can tell from these stanchions how big this model is. So the temple is right there, and this is the pool. Can you see that? This is the pool. That's the 60 feet of the front of the temple. So this must be the sheep gate. This is as close as you can get to God, but you're on the outside. Lots of people, a multitude of invalids, blind, lame, paralyzed. So I'm looking at this, and it's called the house of compassion, but it sure looks like the house of misery to me. I doubt you would want to go in. If you walked in, you would have people grabbing, begging you to stay, help me get thrown in when the water, and the smell, the selfishness, I mean, you would just run out of this place and never want to go in ever. And there was one man who had been an invalid for 38 years. What strikes you about that? 38 years. And remember, John has skipped over massive miracles. He's skipped over all kinds of things, but he comes to this and he says, look, that guy who said that and who, ratted Jesus out, that guy was 38 years. Tell me your name. Of course, I've got my computer glasses on. I can't hardly see. Of course, Michaela, tell me what you find interesting. It's probably connected to something. And Michaela, what should we ask? Where is it at? So let's look at something. Would somebody read Deuteronomy 1:1 for me? Deuteronomy 1:1. If you read it, you get comment points for today. So who'll read Deuteronomy 1:1 for us? Yes, tell me your name. Titus? Yes, Titus.
These are the words that Moses spoke to all Israel beyond the Jordan in the wilderness, in the Arabah opposite Suf, between Paran and Ophel, Havan, Israel, and Izahar.
And does the next verse say something about 11 days? So what does it say about 11 days?
It is 11 days' journey from Horeb by the way of Mount Seir and Kadesh and Barnea.
Now, Titus, thank you. What that's telling us is that the journey from Mount Sinai to the Promised Land should have taken 11 days. How long does it take? It ends up taking 40 years total. But how long should it have taken? 11 days. So why does it take 40 years? Why do they spend 40 years in the desert? Morgan?
Because when the 12 spies went into the land, they said their people are like giants.
Oh, they're
like
so big.
grasshoppers compared to them. And then
We never go in.
Caleb and Joshua said, no,
No, we can do it.
And then everybody listened to the 10. And so since the 12 spies had been in the land for 40 days, God said, you're going to spend a year for every day.
Every day in rebellion, a year. Should have taken them 11 days. Instead, it took them 40 years. And the 40 years was so that everybody 20 and up could die. Because none of those people were going to go in. So who read Deuteronomy 2:14 for me? Yes, tell me your name.
Wisdom.
Sorry? Wisdom. What a great name. Wisdom, like the embodiment of wisdom. That may be the coolest name. Wow. Wisdom. What does 2:14 say?
And the space in which we came from Kadesh Barnea until we were come over the brook. Zerah was 30 and 8 years until all the generation of the men of war were wasted out from among the host, as the Lord sware unto them.
So wisdom, in other words, we know from the text that they go to Mount Sinai, and basically they spend a year plus in Mount Sinai, and then they spend a year with the tabernacle in Mount Sinai. So from the time of their rebellion against God until all of them die out is 38 years. Now let me just ask you a kind of a meta-narrative question. How many nations were there when God picked Israel? Was it only Israel? Or were there other nations too as well? There were lots of other nations. And did God pick Israel because they were great, or because they were wise, or because they had faith, or because they were better than other nations? Or did God pick them because he was just wanting to show grace to someone who had issues? So he's not picking them because they're better. He's picking them to show grace. Could he have picked Egypt? Could he have picked Ethiopia? Could he have picked Germany? Could he have picked any of those? He could have. But instead, he picked one nation. And he even says, look, you have issues. I'm not picking you because you're better. I'm picking you to show grace. And how does Israel respond to God? God picks them out of this huge group of people. Do they respond to God in a gracious way? No. They kind of just throw God under the bus over and over. Oh. This might be a spiritual picture of something. Jesus may be doing a miracle that points beyond itself to some kind of greater spiritual truth. Morgan, you have a smile on your face.
You just blew my mind again.
Well, it's not me blowing, it's God who wrote the most incredible book in the world. And the problem is we don't ask good questions. We just read stuff and skip over, and then we come to the Bible and say, oh man, this just doesn't make sense. Well, maybe it would make sense if we gave God the benefit of the doubt a little more. If it's the glory of God to hide things and the glory of kings to find them out, maybe God wants to make us kings by searching out his truth in his word. Jesus saw him there, and knowing he'd already been there a long time, he said, do you want to be healed? Oh, by the way, does that pool look like something to you? Like if you're just looking at it, does it look like something to you? Does it look like something you've seen before? It can't be important. Just forget it. It's not like there could be like artistic, like meta-narrative, plot symmetrical, like that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, that would take some kind of genius author, to do that. So skip it. Just skip it. Don't even ever ask yourself any question like that, because it couldn't have like beautiful life-transforming. Do you want to be healed? The sick man answered, Sir, I have no one to put me in the pool when the water is stirred up. I'm going in, another steps down before me. I try to get in. I try to do it. I try to be the first one, and I just fail over and over and over again. Could somebody read verse 4 for me from the ESV? Verse 4 from the ESV. 5:4 from the ESV. Oh, there's no verse 4. Oh, I guess you were all reading it at the same time, and it doesn't exist. Is that odd to you that it goes from verse 3 to verse 5? Maybe the ESV editors were having a bad day and don't know how to count to. No? You laugh? No. Where did verse 4 go? Did you know that the guy, Holland?
Oh, I was just going to say the end of verse 3 and verse 4 aren't on the original manuscript.
The end of verse 3 and verse 4 aren't in the original manuscript. The guy who put the verse numbers in only had 5 manuscripts, and he was working with late manuscripts that weren't good, and so he put the verse numbers in. But our Bibles are too good to include anything that doesn't belong there, so there's 17 places where the verse number guy got it wrong, and those 17 verses aren't printed in our Bibles because they have no claim to be part of the original. Now, the end of 3 and 4 says, because God used to send an angel and he stirred up a water and the first one in. Probably that's a scribal note that was copied in. But is that true? That's totally not true. But was it what the guy believed happened? It was absolutely what the guy believed. This guy had a superstitious belief. Jesus said, get up, take your bed, and walk. Okay, so we've got 1 minute left. I'm just going to tip my hand. I think this is a picture of the Mosaic Law. Can you see that the pool looks like the Mosaic Law? And like, what do people do with the Mosaic Law? They try to do it. And if you're careful to do all that's written in it, what will happen to you? What will happen is you'll be blessed. But can anybody be careful to do according to all that was written in it? No, so salvation has to be through another way. It's through the person of Jesus, who did fulfill the law and who can heal us. We're out of time. I'll see you on Monday.